There is one North Carolina town that is now physically gone. Its main street washed straight into the river, its buildings carried off in a single afternoon. There is another that bet $21.5 million on a country music theater run by Dolly Parton's brother and is still buried under the debt today. And there is a third, the oldest town in America ever chartered by black citizens, that has been drowned so many times its population keeps getting cut in half. These are places where the for sale signs never come down, where nobody is buying homes anymore, and where the real reason is far uglier than a single storm. In this countdown, we are exposing the 10 North Carolina towns Americans have quietly stopped buying homes in. Specific places, specific numbers, and the one reason sitting underneath all of them. And stay to the very end, because the town at number 1 was, until one single day last year, the most wanted place to move in the entire state, and what broke it is the warning every other town on this list is quietly heading toward. Let's break it down. Number 10, Rocky Mount. Drive through Rocky Mount today, and you will see the story before you hear it. Boarded storefronts, faded for lease signs, and street after street of homes priced to move that simply are not moving. This was a tobacco and textile town built around Rocky Mount Mills, one of the oldest cotton mills in the South, opened all the way back in 1818. Then in 1996, the mill closed. 320 jobs vanished in a stroke, and the tobacco money dried up right behind it. Nearly 30 years later, the town is still shrinking, and the buyers never came back. The homes here are cheap, genuinely cheap, but cheap and wanted are two very different things, and Rocky Mount is proof. This is the gentlest stop on the whole list, a town that simply lost its jobs and never replaced them. But Rocky Mount's slow fade at least made sense. The next town's collapse was pure self-sabotage, one reckless bet a small town made and is still paying for today. Number 9, Roanoke Rapids. The town that bankrupted its own future, chasing a dream. This one is not about a storm or a factory. This is a wound the town did to itself. Back in 2007, Roanoke Rapids decided it would become a country music destination. City leaders borrowed $21.5 million to build a 1,500-seat theater and handed it to Randy Parton, Dolly Parton's brother, to headline and manage. The opening shows sold. Then the seats emptied fast. Some nights fewer than 100 people showed up. And on one December night, city officials decided Parton was under the influence and sent him home before the show even started. The whole thing collapsed almost immediately. But the debt did not. Years later, the city still owed roughly $15 million on that building, with a payment near $1 million every single year, pulled straight out of a small town's budget. When a town is drowning in debt from its own mistake, it cannot fund the schools, the roads, or the future that makes a young family want to buy in, which is why they don't. But Roanoke Rapids at least gambled and lost. The next town never got to place a bet at all, because it is simply the poorest city in the entire state. Number 8, Lumberton, the poorest city in North Carolina, and the place where two disasters landed on top of each other. Between 1996 and 2001, Robeson County lost more than 6,500 factory jobs. Converse, Gerber, Croft Metals, gone in 5 years. Today, nearly 31% of Lumberton lives below the poverty line, on a median income around $42,000. That alone would freeze a housing market. Then the water came. Hurricane Matthew in 2016 and Hurricane Florence in 2018 sent the Lumber River straight through the city and over the interstate twice in 2 years. So here is the buyer's math. Low incomes mean almost nobody local can qualify for a mortgage, and a flood zone home means insurance costs that price out the few who could. Homes sit for a year with no offer. Lumberton is not failing because of one flood. It is failing because the money left first and the water finished what was already breaking. And the next town lost its economy in the slowest, quietest way of all. Number 7, Kinston, the tobacco capital that the 21st century forgot. Kinston, on the banks of the Neuse River, was once one of the wealthiest small towns in the state per person, floated by bright leaf, tobacco, and a row of textile plants. That economy is essentially gone. The warehouses sit silent. The young people leave for Raleigh and never come back, and the county keeps losing population year after year. And when the big storms cross eastern North Carolina, the Neuse floods, and everyone here remembers it. Picture a beautiful old brick home on a tree-lined street listed for what would be a down payment in Charlotte, sitting unsold for the better part of a year. The house was never the problem. The paycheck that would pay for it moved 2 hours west and never returned. And that is where the slow decline ends, because everything from here down did nothing wrong at all. These next towns were not failed by their economies. They were taken by the water. Number 6, Princeville, the oldest town in America, chartered by black citizens, and one of the most flooded places in the entire country. Princeville was founded as Freedom Hill in 1865 by newly freed slaves and incorporated under its own name in 1885. It sits in a bowl right beside the Tar River, and that geography has nearly erased it more than once. In 1999, Hurricane Floyd broke the town's levee in 7 different places. The water rose as high as 30 feet. 450 homes were destroyed, and 80% of the town went under. Then in 2016, Hurricane Matthew did it all over again. After each flood, the population was cut nearly in half, and it has never fully come back. Here is what that does to the housing market. Flood insurance on a repeatedly flooded property like this can run well over $10,000 a year if a company will write it at all, and FEMA has spent years buying out whole blocks and moving families off the floodplain for good. When the government is literally paying people to leave, there is no buyer left on the other side of the sale. Pending home sales in a town like Princeville do not slow down. They hit a brick wall. Princeville is not failing because its people gave up. They have fought harder than almost anyone. It is failing because you cannot sell a house the river keeps coming back for. Number 5, Fair Bluff, the town whose downtown died and is now being rebuilt somewhere else entirely. Fair Bluff was a tight little 2-block business district on the Lumber River, the kind of main street that anchored a whole rural community. In October of 2016, Hurricane Matthew put 4 feet of water through every single business on that street. Some were just reopening when Hurricane Florence flooded them all over again in 2018. 2 floods in 2 years, and this time not one of those downtown businesses came back. And here is why nothing sells. No insurance company will write a reasonable policy on a building that has flooded twice in 24 months, and no bank will hand out a mortgage on a property the town itself is officially abandoning. No insurance and no loan means no buyer, so the old downtown just sits, empty, a ghost strip nobody can purchase even if they wanted to. The town has taken more than $50 million in government aid and made a decision most towns never have to make. It is building a brand new downtown from scratch on higher ground because the old one can never be trusted again. That is not a slow market. That is a market that no longer exists. And from here, it stops being about slow decline and starts being about a single day that changed everything. And if you live in North Carolina right now, or you are seriously planning to move here, everything from this point down should stop you cold, because this is where a hurricane did in one afternoon what decades of decline could not. Number 4, Canton, the mill town that lost its heartbeat and then lost everything else. For 115 years, Canton was a paper town. The mill on the Pigeon River was the largest employer for miles. The smell of it was the smell of a paycheck, and generations of families built their whole lives around it. Then in 2023, Pactiv Evergreen shut it down, wiping out roughly 1,100 jobs almost overnight and gutting the town's entire economy in a single announcement. And that is the first blow to the housing market, because when the biggest paycheck in town disappears, the pool of local buyers who can actually afford a mortgage collapses right along with it. Then in September of 2024, Hurricane Helene sent the Pigeon River straight through Canton, flooding the very downtown that was already reeling. Now every home near that river carries a fresh flood history, which means higher insurance, nervous lenders, and buyers who walk the moment they see the flood zone. Fewer people who can buy, and a bigger risk for the ones who try. Canton is not failing because of one disaster. It is failing because the thing that made it a town closed first, and then the storm hit a place that was already down. And the next two towns did not just get damaged, they got erased. Now the top three. If a single town on this list has hit close to home, do me one favor and subscribe, because we post videos like this, dissecting different states and the hidden towns inside them, twice a week, every week. And these last three North Carolina towns are the ones people do not forget. Number 3, Swannanoa, a community that Hurricane Helene did not just flood, it swept away. Swannanoa sits in a valley just east of Asheville, a working-class pocket of the mountains full of modest homes and mobile home parks along the Swannanoa River. On September 27, 2024, that river became something nobody living had ever seen. Helene dropped historic rainfall on the peaks, and the water came down the valley with a force that ripped entire neighborhoods off their foundations. Whole mobile home communities were gone. Homes that had stood for decades simply were not there anymore. More than 100 people died across North Carolina, and this valley was one of the hardest hit places in the state. Picture a concrete slab and a set of front steps that climb up to nothing on a lot that used to hold a family. You cannot list what is not there, and you cannot sell land the next flood map has painted red. But there is one town Helene hit even harder than this. Number 2, Chimney Rock, the town that is quite literally gone. Chimney Rock was a tiny, gorgeous tourist village tucked into the gorge below its famous namesake rock, a single main street of shops and cafes and inns that pulled visitors from all over the country. On the day Helene hit, the broad river rose and tore that main street apart. Buildings that had stood for generations were ripped from their foundations and carried downstream. Locals and reporters described it the exact same way. Downtown Chimney Rock is completely gone. Not damaged, gone. Buying real estate in Chimney Rock today is not a story about high prices or slow sales. It is a story about there being nothing left to put a price on. You pull up a listing for a building on the old main street, and the building in the photo does not exist anymore because the road it sat on was swept into the river. When people ask why nobody is buying homes in Chimney Rock, the answer is the simplest and darkest one on this entire list. There's barely a town left to buy into, which brings us to the town everybody wanted right up until the water came. Number 1, Asheville, the single most wanted address in North Carolina, and the clearest proof of how fast a dream can freeze. For a decade, Asheville was the move. Every list of the best places to live, retire, and escape to put it near the top. Mountains, breweries, art, mild weather, and a downtown people fell in love with on a weekend and moved to within a year. Prices climbed, buyers lined up, and the market ran red hot. Then Helene arrived, and the town that felt untouchable found out it was not. The storm knocked out Asheville's water system for weeks. It destroyed the River Arts District, and the housing market that had never slowed down came to a dead stop overnight. In the months after the storm, pending home sales across the region fell by roughly half. The number of homes actually sold dropped almost 40% from the year before. Days on market climbed as sellers yanked their listings, unsure how to even price a home with a brand new flood history. Insurance costs started ticking up, and buyers who had been desperate to get in suddenly started asking a question they never asked before. What happens the next time the water rises? Buying in Asheville today is like showing up to the hottest party in the state the morning after the fire alarm went off. Everyone is still there, but nobody is quite sure it is safe to stay. Asheville is not failing because it stopped being beautiful. It is failing, for now, because the one thing a boom town runs on, absolute confidence, cracked the day the mountains flooded. That is how the most aspirational address in North Carolina lands at number 1. So there they are, 10 North Carolina towns where the for sale signs have stopped being temporary and started becoming permanent. And underneath every single one, the same pattern repeats. A factory closes, or a river rises, or a town makes one catastrophic bet, and the people who can leave first. The jobs go, the water comes, the insurance climbs, and the buyers with options quietly choose somewhere else, while the folks left behind get poorer and quieter and easier to ignore. North Carolina did not stop being a place people want. The math of actually living in these specific towns broke faster than anyone was ready for. The towns that will rise over the next 10 years are the ones on high ground, with more than one employer and a real reason for a young family to stay. The ones on this list are still waiting for that math to make sense again. If your town made this list, or if you think I got the order wrong, drop it in the comments and tell me what you are seeing on your street. And if this opened your eyes even once, hit subscribe before you go, because I break down the best and the worst places to live in America every single week. I'll see you in the next one.